He first wanted to be an engineer, so he studied architecture at Princeton University, where he eventually earned his degree in 1932. Stewart also became passionate about acting while attending Princeton. Joining the Triangle Club, which presented musical theater shows, his distinct hesitancy and innate charm attracted notice. Following graduation, he received an invitation from Henry Fonda, an actor and personal friend, to go to New York City and pursue a career in acting. This audacious move would alter his life's trajectory. Entering the entertainment industry was never simple, particularly in the midst of the Great Depression, but Stewart persisted. Before transitioning to Broadway plays, he started out on stage, perfecting his craft in summer stock theater. He quickly distinguished himself with his work ethic, tall, lanky build, and oddly charming manner. After some time, Hollywood took note, and Stewart secured a deal with MGM Studios in 1935, beginning a career that would encompass some of the most famous films ever produced and last more than 50 years. Stewart's innate ability to portray genuine, modest characters who frequently battled against insurmountable circumstances, but succeeded through decency and persistence was evident in his early works. The portrayal of an idealistic young senator battling corruption in classics like Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, 1939 solidified his standing as America's personification of integrity and democratic ideals. He received his first Academy Award nomination for that part, and audiences all over the world were won over by his distinct, soft, stuttering, yet profoundly emotional acting approach. Stewart, who co-starred with Katharine Hepburn and Cary Grant in The Philadelphia Story in 1940, took home the Academy Award for Best Actor just a year later. This triumph not only made him a prominent figure in Hollywood but also showed how adaptable he is. He was frequently portrayed as the aristocratic, everyday American, but he could also add depth, humor, and refinement to dramas, romantic comedies, and even suspenseful thrillers. However, circumstances outside of Hollywood had a significant impact on Stewart's career. He put his growing fame on hold to serve his nation when World War II broke out. Stewart became the first well-known American movie star to don a military uniform during the war when he joined the U.S. Army Air Force in 1941. Despite early hurdles because of his thin build and mild underweight, he persevered during his pilot training and eventually rose to the rank of Brigadier General in the U.S. Air Force Reserve. Stewart led risky bombing attacks throughout his many combat sorties over Nazi-occupied Europe, winning the French Croix de Guerre, the Air Medal, and the Distinguished Flying Cross. He was changed by his military service, which imbued him with layers of maturity and gravity that would profoundly impact his roles after the war. After the war, Stewart returned to Hollywood, where his acting career took a new turn. He adopted more nuanced, darker personas that mirrored the breadth of his emotional experiences. Of these performances, Frank Capra's It's a Wonderful Life 1946 is arguably the most enduring. Despite being a modest box office success at first, the movie developed over the years to become a staple of American cinema that is watched every Christmas. Audiences responded strongly to Stewart's portrayal of George Bailey, a small-town guy who gives up his goals for the benefit of his community and experiences hopelessness before finding it again. Today, the position is regarded as the apex of Stewart's career and a distinctive aspect of American culture. Stewart spent the following 30 years creating an incredible body of work. He starred in some of Alfred Hitchcock's most renowned thrillers and became one of his favorite partners. Vertigo, 1958. The Man Who Knew Too Much, 1956. Rope, 1948. And Rear Window, 1954. The latter is frequently praised as one of the best pictures ever made. Stewart also flourished in the Western genre, collaborating with director Anthony Mann on a number of psychologically complex westerns, including The Naked Spur, 1953, Winchester 73, 1950, and The Man from Laram, 1955. These parts demonstrated Stewart's versatility beyond his early boy-next-door persona, allowing him to play not only heroic but also profoundly damaged and troubled characters. With more than 80 film appearances during his career, Stewart left a remarkable legacy. His accomplishments were well known. In addition to other Lifetime Achievement Awards, he was honored with the 1985 Presidential Medal of Freedom and an honorary Academy Award for his services to film. Nevertheless, he maintained his modesty, and loyalty to his roots despite all of his success. Fans, co-workers and friends frequently complimented him on his gentlemanly manner, friendliness, and decency. Like his film career, James Stewart's personal life was characterized by a strong sense of devotion, loyalty, and calm dignity. He married Gloria Hattrick Mellon in 1949, and the two of them had the strongest and longest relationship. Gloria was an exceptionally graceful and kind woman, who was respected for her brilliance and moral fortitude in addition to her beauty. She had previously been married and had two small sons, Ronald and Michael Miller, when she met Stewart. After Sarah and Stewart got married, he not only had a wife but also a loving stepfather who took her youngsters as his own. Friends and co-workers frequently remarked that Stewart, who was well known for his moral rectitude and integrity on screen, upheld same principles in his personal life, creating a family where tradition, love, and stability were highly valued. In Hollywood, where brief romances and divorces frequently made news, their marriage stood apart. One of the most celebrated long-term marriages in the movie business was that of Stewart and Gloria, who remained together for an incredible 45 years. Stewart did not lead a playboy lifestyle or switch between relationships like many of his peers did. He made his commitment for life. Their relationship was based on more than simply love. It was also based on family life, quiet dignity, shared ideals, and a desire for seclusion away from the constant spotlight of Hollywood. Together, they established a haven that enabled Stewart to live as much as possible like a regular man who was loyal to his wife and kids, even if he is one of the most well-known actors in the world. The couple added twin daughters, Kelly and Judy, to their family in 1951, in addition to parenting Gloria's two sons. Although he frequently portrayed heroic or austere characters on television, Stewart was known for being a kind and loving father at home. He lavished his girls with attention, attending their school events, mentoring them as they developed, and teaching in them the same values of honesty and integrity that had governed his own life were all things he took pride in. His humor, patience, and readiness to prioritize family above fame have all been praised by Stewart's kids. Stewart believed that his children were his greatest legacy, perhaps even more enduring than the several films he featured in. Friends began to describe the Stewart home as friendly, hospitable, and lively. It was not a location for frequent parties or celebrity get-togethers like many Hollywood mansions. Rather, it focused on family dinners, customarily observed festivals, and the daily pleasures of parenthood. It was common for Stewart to read to his girls in the evenings, assist them with their schoolwork, or just spend time with them as a family. He loved his roles as a father and a stepfather, and he treated them with the same sincerity and modesty that characterized his playing style. Unfortunately, when Stewart's cherished wife Gloria became ill, his contented home life was put to the ultimate test. She died of lung cancer in 1994, after decades of marriage. Stewart, who had always tended to keep his feelings to himself in public, was obviously heartbroken, because she had been both his companion and his pillar of support during the highs and lows of Hollywood and life in general. Friends observed that a part of him appeared to darken following her demise. Although Stewart rarely discussed his grief in interviews, those who knew him well understood that Gloria's passing left an indelible hole in his heart. Stewart had a quiet existence in his latter years, frequently thinking back on their lengthy and fulfilling marriage. In the late 1930s, James Stewart was still considered a bit of a lesser star in Hollywood, despite receiving positive reviews early in his career. The studio he was contracted to, MGM, was hesitant to promote him to the position of leading man. Studio executives believed that audiences might not find him as appealing as more polished matinee idols due to his lanky body, reserved manner, and uncertain speech pattern. As a result, Stewart was able to develop his career in a rather piecemeal manner because MGM regularly lent him to other studios rather than giving him important roles themselves. Later, Stewart recalled with a sense of humor and humility, "At MGM, I wasn't exactly destroying the earth. They allowed me to stray into other people's photos since they weren't sure what to do with me." One of those loanouts turned out to be crucial. Stewart was cast opposite Ginger Rogers in the romance comedy Vivacious Lady in 1938 after receiving plaudits from critics for his naturalism in a supporting role in Of Human Hearts. The task initially appeared to be simple, but it quickly grew intricate. In 1937, production was unexpectedly stopped for a few months after Stewart became extremely ill with an unspecified illness that necessitated hospitated HOSPITAON. In Hollywood. There were rumors circulating over the nature of his ailment. While some attributed it to tiredness and others to a persistent ailment, Stewart never provided an explanation, merely stating, "I wasn't in the best shape. It took me some time to regain my footing." Fearing that an unproven actor like Stewart could not carry a film with an established actress like Rogers, RKO contemplated replacing him entirely due to the delay. For a while, it appeared as though Stewart's opportunity to land a big job could be lost. The entire project was on the verge of being shelved, but luck changed things when Ginger Rogers had a huge hit in a theater musical, which reignited interest in starring her alongside a new actor. According to reports, Rogers herself told filmmakers she enjoyed Stewart's modest, sincere charm and demanded he stay in the part. With appreciation, Stewart recalled, "Ginger stood by me. She thought I could play the role, and I might not have been cast." Vivacious Lady was a critical and financial success when it eventually debuted in theaters. The chemistry between Stewart and Rogers, who lighted up the screen with heartfelt moments and lighthearted banter, was adored by audiences. Critics commended Stewart's talent for romantic comedy, pointing out that his tentative delivery, once viewed by MGM as a weakness, now came off as charming. He is one of the most intelligent and captivating young performers now on screen, according to the New York Herald. Stewart's ability to be more than just a supporting actor was demonstrated by this part. He could play a leading role, particularly in comedies and romantic tales. The chemistry between Stewart and Rogers was as genuine off-screen as it was on camera. However, they purposefully kept their romance hidden from the public. At the time, Rogers was already a sensation thanks to her succession of musicals with Fred Astaire, which garnered frequent press coverage, while Stewart was still meticulously cultivating his image as a clean-cut all-American figure. After being met by Stewart's close friend Henry Fonda, who was then seeing Rogers' close friend Lucille Ball, the two began a discreet relationship in 1935. Although the double dating circle kept things under wraps, rumors circulated about the couple's increasing intimacy in Hollywood. Stewart didn't get married until he was well into his 40s, which only served to heighten the media's interest in his bachelor status. He was referred to as the Great American Bachelor by gossip columnist Ha Hopper, a moniker that stuck with him for years. However, Stewart had developed a number of deep relationships before being married, with Ginger Rogers being one of the most significant. Those close to them understood the romance was real, even though neither of them at the time publicly recognized it. In a rare moment of introspection, Stewart would later acknowledge, "Ginger was someone very special to me. Although we had a great time together, private matters are really challenging due of Hollywood's industry, as their jobs took them in various ways." Their relationship eventually deteriorated while Stewart became one of the most adored actors in America. Rogers maintained her quick ascent with additional comedies and musicals. Nevertheless, their relationship and the secrecy with which they preserved it throughout those early years of his career continue to be an intriguing aspect of Hollywood history. In retrospect, Stewart once summed it up with his usual understatement, "Ginger was a star, and I was just a young child trying to find my way. We met in the middle for a little time." At the age of 83, Ginger Rogers passed away from a heart attack at her Rancho Mirage home on April 25, 1995. At the age of 89, James Stewart passed away on July 2, 1997, at his Beverly Hills home from a heart attack brought on by an embolism surrounded by his kids.